before politicians took over and humanity was free, I'd F you up if you tried to tell me who to be.
The Financial Survival Network. Now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Gary Lutz. Well, our good friend Gerald Celente of Trends Research is with us now. And Gerald, your cover of this week's Trends Journal is Presidential Reality Show. It's the economy, stupid. That kind of sums it all up, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was the phrase that the Clinton campaign used back in 1992. That was behind the scenes. Things were going tough back then. You know, the panic of the crash, the market crash in 1987. You know, things were going down. And it's the economy. I mean, that's all the people are really interested in, the main thing. And if the economy stays where it is, or just goes down a little bit, we're forecasting Harris is going to win. It has to be something major, like a stock market crash, you know, something to that effect, a real wild card that'll bring Trump in. And there's more to it, by the way. You go back to our Trends Journal. I'm going to May of 2022. The midterm elections are going on. In your Trends Journal, it's right there in black and white. And you got to say black and white because I don't want to be called racist. It says that Kamala Harris is going to be the heir to the Democratic throne. Now, this is going back to 2022 because Biden, at 79 years old, is not respected by the American people, and because of the economic conditions. And she's going to hit the campaign trail, and the major issue is going to be...
Really?
Huh. Again, we call it like it is. Not what you want, not what you like, not what you wish for. It's what is. We said, facts are right there. 2022, the Republicans are not going to do well in the midterm elections because they should be doing great because of the economy, because of their
women's rights
stance.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, it's a one-issue election.
Right.
And you look at the numbers, and the vast majority of women, independents, and Democrats are pro. Mm-hmm. And you have the Republicans coming out, Trump saying, you know, that he did more to destroy Roe versus Wade than anybody. Vance coming out, you know, anti. That is going to be a big winning ticket for Harris.
Really? Being
a pro. And by the way, again, not taking a stance, just making it clear, the hypocrisy from these Repulsivekins, like a little clown boy of nothing like that, Mike Johnson.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking, and I want to make this clear for everybody listening, I'm not talking about regular people. I'm talking about the politicians. Mm-hmm. Politicians like him calls himself, quote, an evangelical Christian. And he's anti, okay? You don't kill the babies before they're born, but more money for war. Kill them when they're alive. What hypocrisy. Yeah. What hypocrisy. You're anti, you don't want to kill it that hasn't been born, but here's more money for the Israel war, for the Ukraine war. Keep killing people all over the place, but don't kill them before they're born. That's the arrogance and stupidity of these little teste di cazzos, as we would call them in Italian.
All right. So you really think she's going to win? But
oh, yeah.
Her campaign reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where George is pitching the script for the movie, and they say, "What is it about?" And he says, "It's absolutely about nothing."
Yep.
Right?
It's a reality show. Mm-hmm. And she has, again, you go back to some of our other Trends Journal covers, you know, we make fun of her and him, you know, and it's basically Mickey Mouse versus Donald Duck, Minnie Mouse versus Donald Duck. I mean, she comes out smiling and happy, and Trump comes out, how stupid can you be?
Mm-hmm.
How stupid. The thing is, Trump is so damn arrogant and narcissistic. His team knows he shouldn't be doing what he's doing, but he doesn't listen to anybody. He only listens to himself. And by the way, I had lunch with his brother, Robert, who passed away back in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, Robert was a nice guy, but, these are daddy's boys.
Yeah.
Robert told me his father left almost $500 million worth of properties.
That's correct.
Yep.
So what about this whole thing that Trump wants to become a dictator and, the way that they're portraying him? Is that does he really want to be a dictator?
I believe so. Again,
so?
listen to his comments. Remember, he said to the Christian people, after this, you'll never have to vote again when I get in there.
Yeah, but he's got a twisted sense of humor too, doesn't he?
Well, again, what's right? What's the humor and what's the facts?
Mm-hmm. Well, how many people did he lock up for doing offensive memes? How many websites did he order shut down because they said bad things about him? He didn't really act that way his first term. Is this one going to be different?
Well, let's look what he did the first term.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that gave us the Operation Warp Speed gene therapy inoculation. He's the guy that called a state of emergency on March 13th, Black Friday, not being racist, that's what they call it, Black Friday in 2020.
Yeah.
He was the guy that locked down everything.
Mm-hmm.
He called a state of emergency.
Yeah. So what do we do here? Like, how do we get Operation Peace? What do we do?
There's no peace. Peace is a dirty word. You're not allowed to talk about peace. Look what they did to Scott Ritter, a guy that's anti-war, a real man, former Marine, been on the other side. That's why he hates war.
Mm-hmm.
And look what they did. FBI came in, boop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So war is still a racket, huh?
Yep. And again, peace is a dirty word. Is anybody on the media talking about peace? Do they have anybody out there talking about peace?
I haven't heard anybody talking about it.
No.
They
quote little clowns like Lindsey Graham.
He never met a military intervention he didn't love, right?
Yep.
Hey, so we take it back to Smedley Butler, right?
Yep.
War is a racket.
War's a racket.
Nothing's changed here, has it?
Nope.
All right.
Again, listen to a man, again, who's been on the other side and knows the horrors of it. General Dwight D. Eisenhower became president. Mm-hmm. Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces in World War II, 5-star general. He warns the American people that the military-industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, the sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. And here we are. Look at the money going to war. Look at the hundreds of billions, the trillions that we spent killing over 1 million people in Iraq, Afghanistan, slaughtering hundreds of thousands, several $1 trillion as the country's rotting in front of our eyes. I mean, I'm a New Yorker, I'm down to city a couple of weeks ago. This is way worse than it was back at the worst time in the 70s.
Yeah, I know. So true.
Garbage everywhere.
I do
People
my best.
shooting up. Get out in the streets.
Yeah. I do my best to avoid going to New York City. You know, like whatever it takes to avoid that place, I avoid it. But they're lying about all the crime stats and everything else now too, right?
Yep. Again, look at the subway. It's a night in Calcutta. How about Amtrak? Look at the stupid train we got. They got high speed rail all in Japan, China, Europe, and we got this crap. The country's rotting in front of our eyes.
That's the truth. It really is rotting in front of our eyes. So what's the individual? What are you and I supposed to do here, Gerald?
Well, on September 28th, I'm having a peace and freedom rally up here in Kingston, New York. You go to Occupy Peace and you could see it. having Judge Napolitano, Scott Ritter, Max Blumenthal, Anya Parampil, and others as speakers. We want to get 1 million people here to close down the streets so they hear our voice of peace.
It's going to be the
I'm doing
Woodstock
everything I
of
can.
peace.
What?
It'll be the Woodstock of peace.
Well, Woodstock is it's libtard land now. Woodstock radio, they won't promote anything I do. They're little cowards. They're little arrogant, gutless little boys.
Yeah.
And
hey, so remember when the Democratic Party was the party of freedom and civil rights and free speech and all that stuff? What happened to that party?
very simple. Again, one of my books. Yeah. Trends 2000. Excuse me, trend tracking. Far better than Megatrends, Time Magazine. I wrote in the book the decline of the Democratic Party. It was going to happen. And talked about it more in this book, Trends 2000, which is an international bestseller.
Mm-hmm.
It's when they brought that slime ball in. Matter of fact, they even did a T-shirt when he was running in 1992. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Beware, Slick Willie. That was the end of the Democratic Party when they brought him in.
Was it him, or was it Hillary?
No, it was him. Or Hitlery. Yeah.
Hillary? Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is the guy that, remember NAFTA? They took our jobs away from America, brought it down to cheap labor in Mexico. This is the scum that brought China into the World Trade Organization. This is a guy, Federal Communications Act, 1996. We allowed, back in the day when we were young guys, there were thousands of independent radio stations, newspapers, television stations, all locally owned. The bigs own everything now. This guy, he became the Republican. He killed the Democratic Party. Oh, how about Madeline Not All That Bright, the she rotten hell, the former UN ambassador, who's on with Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes. And Leslie Stahl, and anybody could Google it up, Leslie Stahl, Madeleine Albright. She asks him, is the price of 500,000 Iraqi children under the age of 5 that have died because of what Bill Clinton has done to Iraq worth the price? And Madeleine Albright says, yes, it is. All right. Oh, you like the Kosovo War, the Yugoslav War?
Yeah.
Look at it. Bill Clinton, he changed the whole Democratic Party.
It became the party of war.
Yep.
You know, remember, the only good thing to come out of the Yugoslav War is that they bombed the Yugo factory. So that saved a lot of people from driving around in Yugos.
Yeah. And, people forget what the reason why they took out Yugoslavia, because it was the end of the Soviet empire when Gorbachev was in there, and the whole and another clown, and the whole thing started to die. And all the countries started going with the West, except Yugoslavia. They wanted no part of it. They were going to be their own. They were still a socialist nation. People forget the top diesel engines in the world were being manufactured in Yugoslavia. It was a very advanced, and again, my friends from Montenegro, from Croatia, they all say how great things were going. Mm-hmm. And then they caused a revolution. Again, it's America getting involved in all these countries that we should have no business. Again, the founding fathers, George Washington's farewell address. Don't become involved in any of this.
Beware
we're going
of
off for centuries. Yeah.
Yeah. So this whole thing, now I want to switch gears to China. It looks like everything in that country is like collapsing before our very eyes. What are the trends saying there?
Okay, let's go back to 2019. China was doing great. Then they launched the COVID war in January 2020. on their Chinese Lunar New Year, the year of the rat,
Oh,
and 3 years of zero COVID policy. They destroyed the country. We used to say before that the 20th century was the American century, but the 21st century will be the Chinese century.
I know.
Because the business of America's war and the business of China is business. But China went to the COVID war. Let's go back. Again, this is why I always say there's no such thing as a futurist. Nobody can predict the future. There are too many wild cards. I mentioned about Bill Clinton bringing China into the World Trade Organization. You look at, and it came in, by the way, 2 weeks after 9/11. You look at China's GDP from like 1970 to 2001. It's like this, going like this.
It's like nothing.
Right? They get into the World Trade Organization, poof, shoots up
Powerball.
because all the manufacturers that could in Europe and America went over to China for cheap labor to get their stuff made. So with all booming economies, according to the data, some 30% of China's GDP is related to real estate.
Yeah.
As with all booms, there's a bust. They made a bust very bad, terrible, by 3 years of zero COVID policy. They destroyed their economy. And the second country to lock down was Italy, then America, and one after another. The damage done by the COVID war is incalculable. Incalculable.
Yep. Couldn't agree with you more. And, looking at China, so, they've got a mess on their hands. There's a rumor that Xi has been deposed. I don't know if it's true or not. Impossible for us to know these things. But so are they going to invade Taiwan to distract from their problems there, or is that all a head fake?
I don't know. As I say, when all else fails, they take you to war.
Exactly.
And they may do that. But here's the other thing that China's going to do, the same thing that Russia did. Let's go back when 2022, when the Ukraine war began, and the United States and Europe put severe sanctions on Russia. And Biden said Putin will pay the price. No, they didn't. Their economy went up. The GDP is strong. You know why? They became self-sustaining.
Right.
They have the human and natural resources to do it. The same thing with China. They don't want they want the people, they're going to push into the people's brain, only buy made in China. Now, what do you got in America at 332 million people? What do you got? Europe about 400 or 500 million?
Right.
What do you have in China? 1.4 billion?
Mm-hmm.
So 1.4 billion buying and trading with each other. And nothing, they're going to go more self-sustaining.
So nationalism but China and Russia really don't like each other much. It seems like nobody likes anybody. And one trend that I know you've commented on a number of times is, I don't care where the person is on this planet, what country, wherever, they hate their government. They absolutely loathe their government. Right?
Yep. I wrote something the other day. I just wrote this down. Before politicians took over and humanity was free, I'd F you up if you tried to tell me who to be. Oh, no. I'm Gavin Newsom. I'm a little arrogant boy. My daddy worked for the Getty Gang. Oh, I have all these successful businesses because the Gettys gave me all that money. I'll tell you what to do. I'm little Andy Cuomo, another little daddy's boy. My daddy was Mario. Lock down your business. Close down your school. Stand 6 feet apart. Bend over. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right.
I got to tell you a story. I once went to a political breakfast for Andy Cuomo when he was Attorney General. And, it was very friendly. He seemed like he was a bright guy. He seemed like he really wanted to fix the systemic problems of New York. And I said, hey, I've been running businesses in New York since I'm 18 years old. And the one thing I can tell you is whether you're small, medium, or large, New York hates you. And they do everything they can to help you fail. And, he didn't disagree. And then, like 3 weeks later, my law firm got a subpoena from his office.
There you go.
Hey, and RFK Jr. is another story. I used to work out in the same gym as him in Westchester. And to me, it's obvious they've never taken him as a serious threat because none of the stories that I have personal knowledge of have ever hit the airwaves.
Yeah.
So he's just he's part of the reality show. He's the outlaw. You always need a villain, right? Every show needs a villain. If you don't have a villain in a reality TV show, it dies, right?
Yep. And it's all it is. It's a reality. It's a freak show. We got a bunch of freaks telling us what to do.
And
a bunch of little arrogant little nobodies.
If they knew what they were talking about, that would be one thing. But these people are not the brightest people. They're not our best.
Yeah. Look, I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate at 26 years old.
Yeah. So
I used to work on political campaigns in Westchester County.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I began my career. I designed and instructed a course, by the way, called American Politics and Campaign Technology, how to run political campaigns, and I taught it at St. John's University. When I was the number 2 guy running a major trade association at 30 years old, I have the photo. I picked up Ronald Reagan at the Chicago Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to put on a trade show at McCormick Place, and he was our speaker. This is 2 days before he's announcing he's running against Gerald Ford for the nomination. 1976. Mm-hmm. I've been with presidents, prime ministers, and princes. I've been on the other side. I know what it looks like. There are these are the people I hated in high school and college that wanted to be class president or head of the student council. You got it?
I know exactly what you mean. I totally know. You hate those people.
Yep.
Kiss ass, brown nose, I was trying to explain to somebody who spoke Spanish what a kiss ass was. So finally I had to pull up a meme of a guy with his, she said, oh, now I understand.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you get ahead. To get ahead, to go ahead, you got to get ahead and get along to go along, right?
You got to suck up and bow down and take a crap. When I quit the Senate, was one of my best friends, Brian Donahue, may rest in peace. His wife became a lieutenant governor under Pataki.
Mm-hmm.
We're standing in the back of the chamber, right? And they got this fat slob opening the door. Senator Frank Jones, Senator Tom McNeil. I'm saying, what's this crap with this guy opening the door? How come these people can't open the door by themselves? They look at me. Then we'd be talking, and my buddies would follow the senators to the seat when they came in, pull out the chair and help them sit down. You could blow on these.
Oh, my God. Royalty?
They come back. I say, hey, man, what's the matter? Cat can't sit down by himself. He needs some help. He said, Gerald, you have that kind of an attitude. You're not going to make it here. I said, listen, man, this ain't my trip. I quit. They couldn't believe when I quit. I'm not going to do this crap.
Well, I was in Austria a couple of summers ago and looking at the Habsburg museums and stuff. I mean, we got like the same thing, except that our people aren't royalty, but they seem to have been inbred, as part of this effort to get them where they are.
Yep. And think of the term you just said, royalty. What royalty? A crime syndicate? Murdering people all over the world? Mm-hmm. Oh, we don't pee or poo. We're royalty. We're much. Who made up this royalty crap?
All right.
A mafia.
So we're going to have this global collapse, right? I mean, that's baked in the cake. They seem to want it, right? This is what their game plan is. How do you survive it?
I don't think it's a game plan. It's going to be a collapse. And again, what nobody's talking about, and going back to the COVID war, and only in your Trends Journal, go back to May of 2020 when they started locking down the country.
I remember it well. I didn't pay any attention to it, but I still couldn't go out to a restaurant to go eat.
And you couldn't go to work. Your office vacancy rate, vacant.
I know.
This data just came out in New York City, 40% vacant.
It's a ghost town.
San Francisco, all of the offices.
Like 80 or something there.
No, just that's just the office vacancy rate, but all the commercial, I'm not putting the commercial in. It's lower.
Okay.
When you put the commercial in, it's only about, in New York, it's about 24%. But the office vacancy is 40%. San Francisco, before the COVID war, your office vacancy rate, the office vacancy rate was 5%.
Right. Same in New York. Wasn't it?
No,
Like
New York was
low
higher.
single digits.
New York was higher. Now it's 34.5%. The hotels are doing terrible. The streets are filled with crap and people. Now, I'm mentioning this because there's going to be massive defaults on commercial real estate,
Oh, yeah.
particularly the office buildings. No one's talking about this. No one. Not the mainstream media. They won't refuse to report on it. Let's go back to 2023. 3 banks went bust: Silicon Valley, Conman Bank, First Republic, and Signature.
Yeah.
Gold prices skyrocketed and the market was tanking.
Mhm.
3 banks. You have $4 trillion worth of commercial real estate loans coming up over the next 2 years. There's going to be defaults like we've never seen. Here's a fact. You know New York, 50th Street,
I know
Midtown.
it well.
A building that sold for $320 million in 2006, 2 weeks ago went up for auction. They sold it for $8.5 million.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that. Yeah. So the office building bust is going to cause the banks to go bust. That's going to crash the global economy, the equity markets, and ramp up World War III, because when all else fails, they take you to war. Just go back to the Great Depression. Again, people don't know this. You know, I do podcasts with Judge Andrew Napolitano each week on the Gerald Celente channel. And when we're talking about it, World War II, and he said, oh, yeah, he said the Americans and the British cut off all the oil supply going in, most of the oil supply.
That's not true.
No, to Japan.
Oh, to Japan. That's what triggered it. Yeah, but they were still trading with the Nazis throughout World War II, right?
No,
Ford, GM.
So why, in other words, why the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor? So I Google up, anybody Google up, Franklin Roosevelt seizes Japanese assets. Google it up. History Today comes up. Again, when all else fails, they take you to war. There's the Great Depression's going on. In July of 1941, President Franklin Roosevelt seized all Japanese assets in America.
July 26th.
Because those dirty Japanese invaded French Indochina. Wait a minute. French Indochina?
I think that's called Vietnam.
And Laos and Cambodia.
Right.
And what the hell are the French doing over there? Oh, we're stealing their tin, their rubber, rape, pillage, robbing. How dare those Japanese go in there? Oh, you have the French Foreign Legion. Then you Google it, it's right there. The Dutch and the UK with the United States cut off 3/4 of Japan's global trade.
Right.
and 88% of their imported oil. They only import 100%.
I see it right here. Yep.
Right?
It's right there.
Yep. Can't understand why they're going
History.com.
Pearl Harbor.
I'll put the link in the show notes here, Gerald. I think this is really important.
I didn't know this. I didn't know this until 2 years ago.
I knew they cut off the oil.
Right. I didn't know the other parts.
But at the same time, throughout World War II, our great corporations were all trading with the Germans. All of them. GM, Ford. I mean, the archives are full of it. And so it makes you wonder what the heck the war was really about. It wasn't about what they said it was.
Oh. How about Prescott Bush?
Yeah. Union Bank, right? Of Switzerland, right? Director. Laundered Nazi money.
Again, I didn't know this. Again, when all else fails, they take you to war.
Yeah.
And then you read that thing, and the Americans also, they also are angry about the Japanese going to Vietnam. They took over Cameron Air Force Base. It says it right there, which is 800 miles away from the United States troops in the Philippines. What the hell are we doing in the Philippines? And the British were in Singapore. What the hell? Oh, the sun never sets on the British Empire. I forgot. They could kill anybody they want everywhere.
I have a great book for you if you haven't read it already. And I know you're like an avid reader. And it's written from a real lefty perspective, but it was so spot on. It's called Gangsters of Capitalism, Smedley Butler, the Marines, and the making and breaking of America's empire. I mean, he goes through every single military intervention the United States did from after the Civil War up to and including World War I. And Smedley Butler was at each of those military incursions, which is why, like when we where was it, in Costa Rica or Guatemala, where we basically invaded the country to save United Fruit.
Yep.
Because they were nationalizing the plantations. And it's like, there's nothing, this history never got written, you know?
Nope. No, it's so sad, it breaks my heart. And, but anyway, again, like you said, what are you going to do? Well, I'm doing everything I can do. You're doing what you can do. And everybody has to do what they can do. And again, as I said, if a billionaire donated to our Occupy Peace movement, we'd have peace. We had $1 billion for peace.
Hey, so what about Elon Musk? Give us your take on him.
He got onto his own ego trip, as I see it.
Well, but hey, I don't know who's behind him, what his real deal is. Electric vehicles. All right, you could say what you like about them, but honestly, I think they're better than gas-powered ones. Not that they're going to save the world, because that's a ridiculous notion. Man's very nature, very existence is an attack on nature, right? We have to subvert nature to survive. We can't just get along with nature and have the population stay the same or go up.
The electric vehicles, we had one of our top trends for 2024 was EVs go FU. We've been writing about the EVs since the beginning. You're looking at a battery that the batteries were invented in 1800.
I know.
The sales are going down everywhere except in China. And they're going up in China because they're giving the people, money to buy these things. But they're not. And again, 60% of China's energy, by the way, comes from coal. So, the pollution rates are still very high. Now, EVs aren't the answer. Again, if we took the money, again, as Eisenhower said, we're robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. If we put this money, rather than going into war, into research and development, we'd have a real clean energy cars and clean energy life. But again, let's go. Yeah, I'm the Hudson River over here. You like all those PCBs in it?
GE, thank you, GE.
Yeah. How about all the microplastics?
Yeah.
I mean, how about all the ultra processed foods that people gulp down with all the
That's
crap?
not food. that's a manufactured product.
Yep.
Processed food should not be called food.
Yep.
I
You
mean,
know, remember when we were young guys, there used to be a thing called the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus.
yeah,
They went out of business. You know why?
to save the elephants.
No, you don't have to step right up, step right up. See the fat man, see the tattooed lady, see the bearded lady.
Freak shows, yeah.
You don't have to pay for it anymore. They're out in the street everywhere.
So they couldn't take the competition, huh?
No, they're everywhere.
Hey, do you know what Edison's most profitable invention was?
No.
The alkaline battery.
Wow.
All right. That was way more profitable than lighting, than electric, than anything else. Because you know who the biggest purchaser of the alkaline batteries were?
No.
The U.S. military in World War II. And he made them in his factory in New Jersey. And that's close to where I grew up. If you've never gone to Edison's lab, it really is worth going to. He had his faults as a person, but
as we all do.
yeah, none of us are saints here, let's face it. But you know, it really, that was his most profitable invention.
Wow.
Forget movies, forget phonograph records, forget light bulbs and power generation, because he screwed that up. And Tesla, the original Nikolai Tesla, was really the genius behind a lot of the electrification. So you know, nothing really ever changes. Hey, one thing about these empty skyscrapers, you know, for our screwed up society where single parenthood seems to be the norm, honestly, the lockdowns and the remote working where it's possible really helped these single parents a lot, because they don't have to go to the office every day, assuming they still have a job, right?
Yeah. But again, going back to those buildings, all of the buildings, again, that one on 50th Street, they're non-convertible into housing. Again, that's
that.
in the middle, it's in the middle of the block. So you got this big empty space. You got no windows. All these places, all these things are they're just empty, big empty steel and glass. They're not convertible.
Yeah, their maximum floor space. They didn't care about views. Like the old buildings, like the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, all could be converted because the distance from the core of the building where the elevators are is perfect. And that's why they converted all those buildings down in Wall Street. They were perfectly repurposed. But you can't take these office buildings. How are you going to take the old GM building on Fifth Avenue and turn that into housing? It can't be done.
No. By the way, New York Times in the Metropolitan section just about a month ago,
The slimes
had a major story about Joseph Pell Lombardi, who redid Liberty Tower. That's right near, it's about I think it was 1907 or 1910 building that he bought in 1978, I believe. He was the only one to bid on it. He paid under $1 million for it and converted it into beautiful apartments. That's my cousin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my second cousin was
He was
my
a
mother's.
visionary.
Yeah, and that's who they called him, a visionary. It's my mother's cousin's son. And I never forget his father. He used to come visit us. He was such a kind man. But anyway, they called him a visionary. So the visionary's in the blood. And yeah, so
he was. That's so true.
Yeah.
So, hey, so is there any place you can hide, any country you can go to? It's going to be safe. Costa Rica, Thailand. So stay where you are.
I own 3 of the most historic buildings in America. It's the only corner. Anybody could Google it up. Most historic 4 corners in America, Kingston, New York. It's the only place with pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings.
Yeah.
1750, 1763, and 1774. The other one's 1681, and that's a museum.
That's amazing.
I bought them because I was looking to leave the country back in 2010. And everywhere I went, It's not going to work.
Exactly.
And I came back from Berlin on April 17th, 20, April 27th, 2012. I'd never been to Berlin before. I spent a lot of time in Paris. I used to date Marie-Pierre. Berlin was grander than Paris before they bombed it out.
Right.
And I'm saying to myself, where were the people? How come they didn't stop this? You're losing. Why didn't the people stop it? So I came back, and one of the buildings, the 1750 Franz Rogan house, went up for sale when I was away, and I bought it. And I bought the other three because the seeds of democracy was sown here. Kingston was the first capital of New York State. I went for jury duty, and the guy running the show said, see that picture up behind me? That painting? That's John Jay. John Jay was
Right. Sure. First Chief Justice. Yeah.
he was a judge over here. The Constitution that was written for New York State in Kingston, right across the street, over 70% of America's Constitution, he said, comes from that Constitution. I bought those buildings because the seeds of democracy was sown here. And by the way, that's where I had the rally. And I said to myself, I can't run away. Love it or leave it, no, you leave it. I'm only me because I'm a Napolitano, born in the Bronx, born to be free. Don't tell me what to do. I won't tell you what to do.
Exactly.
If you try to tell me what to do, you got a fight on your hands. So
Agreed.
leave me alone.
I
And that's why I bought these buildings. And that's why I'm still here.
think I mentioned to you, my mother was born in Kingston. So, and her family was all in Beacon, all along the river there.
Oh,
Did
Beacon's
quite well. The tank farms, World War II is where they made all their money, with the tank farms there,
Wow.
right on the Hudson. Still there as of 20 years ago, the last time I was by there, they were still there.
So Beacon, I had gone through a divorce in the late 90s, and I was living out in Rhinebeck.
Mhm.
And I was living in the country. And I said, I got to get out of here. So it was either going to be Hudson, Beacon, or Kingston. Back when I came to Kingston, I bought the building I'm in now in 2002. Beacon was one dead street.
Yeah, I know. I remember it.
Now it is alive, and it is beautiful.
That's great to hear.
It's beautiful. And the train stops there.
Mhm.
Both the Amtrak and the
Metro North.
Yep.
Yeah.
So people come back and forth to the city, come up there on the weekends. Beacon is doing great. Beautiful,
Great.
great places to go to. I enjoy going there a lot. So I wouldn't own what I own, but I would have had a better time having fun in Beacon because they got music, nightlife, and it's
Close
after,
enough.
by the way, with COVID now, 9 o'clock, everything is dead. 9
Yeah.
o'clock, everything is dead.
Well, in Florida here, that's when things are just getting started. But old people like me got to go home at that point. Gerald, one parting piece of advice to all of you listening out there, what would it be?
Do everything you can to get in the best shape you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You're in the fight for your life.
All right. I
Do
like
what
it.
you can.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't give financial advice. One of our top trends for 2024 was a golden year for gold. Gold prices are up now over $400 an ounce since we made that forecast. And
Yeah.
we see it going much, much higher.
Couldn't agree with you more. We'll see if the mining industry ever comes back to life, though, because I love the mining industry. I work with the companies there, but it's so hard to ever bring a mine online nowadays. You know, it's virtually impossible. So, all right, trendsresearch.com, Trends Journal, subscribe to it. It's must reading. All these things, Gerald, you've been talking about is all spelled out there many years ago. None of it would be surprising you now if you had been a subscriber. I am. And hey, if you've got a question for Gerald, myself, shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. And while you're at the site, you'll find a link to the Trends Journal, and please sign up for your free newsletter. Gerald, always a pleasure. Can't thank you enough for taking time out to come on the show.
Oh, and thank you so much for what you do. I really appreciate it. And I got to take a trip to Florida and have some fun with you. I'll see you soon, hopefully.
All right, soon. Take care.